Whenever I hear that story, it's so yeah, engaging, right? It's like Elisha, Elisha. All right. But my Josh is not about Elisha, even though he's a great prophet. All right. So, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week is Torah portion Vayera, and it has lots of um, memorable stories, memorable lessons we could learn in this Torah portion. But I would say the biggest one is the Akeidah, the binding of Isaac. And we read about Avraham Avinu being commanded to sacrifice his son. And what did Avraham do? He didn't argue or plead or anything with Hashem. He just rose up early and started to go to the mountain, right? No negotiation. He just obeyed. Which is interesting because previously in the same parashah, we hear him negotiating, right? Negotiating with Hashem. In this instance, he didn't negotiate. He just went and followed Hashem. So I guess from this we ask these kind of questions is what is the relationship between Emunah, which is our faith, and Shemirat Mitzvot, or keeping the commandments? What's the relationship between faith and keeping the commandments? Can we truly separate belief from action, right? And we have one of our great sages, the Ramban, Nachmanides. He teaches us something essential. And about this in Genesis 12, he comments about this. He said, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, says to Avraham, "For now I know that you are a God-fearing man." Ramban explains, until now it was potential. Now it has become actual, for the Holy One knows all that is hidden, but the purpose of all trials is to actualize potential into deed, so that one receives reward for action and not just good intentions. Okay? So Ramban is teaching us, it's not only something that we want to do or we think about, we have a good idea, good intentions, but it's actually doing it, working it out, seeing that action happen. And so, since we are Benei Avraham, this is a transformative idea, right? To not just have faith, not just have the good intention, but to do the action. So the master of the master of the universe, Hashem, knows our hearts. He knows our intentions. He knows our desires are to serve Him. But He gives us trials so that we act out these intentions, right? So that we can be transformed, oftentimes, or maybe even to learn how to act out, as I'll explain later on. So faith is not only in the mind or in the heart, but it becomes an act. It becomes like something that is planted in our hearts that wants to do something, like a seed that's breaking forth out of the soil. We have this faith in our hearts, but yes, it has to break forth and produce fruit, right? So I guess in this story, Abraham's faith was actualized when he picked up that knife and he was about to sacrifice his son. I think it also maybe part of when he was tying up his son, doing all these things. These are like, but it came, he had to do it like almost the whole act before Hashem stopped him, right? And in Genesis, so what was the result of this act? What was the result of this? He's this faith into action. And we read here in Genesis 22, verse 18, Hashem blesses him, talks to him. He says, And through your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Ekev asher shamata bikoli, because you have listened to my voice. All the nations, not just the nation of Israel, but all the nations have been blessed by this act of Avraham. Yeshua has something to say about this in a way. He talks about um, faith, or maybe action, more like action. He's talking to his Talmudim in Matthew 7, verse 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So not just calling out Hashem's name, not just declaring that you are a servant of Hashem is gonna get you into heaven, get you into the kingdom. It's gonna get you. The only way you get into the kingdom is by doing action, doing deeds, doing mitzvot that Hashem has given us to do. He's talking to Jews, right? But even the non-Jews also have actions that they have to also do, maybe less than us, but they still have to do them. Or refrain from doing them, one or the other. All right. Hey, what's going on here? Don't play around with my don't play around with my drosh while I'm reading it. Okay, thank you. All right. But so now I'm gonna talk about this story that happened many thousands of years ago, right? And I'm gonna bring a story, my own personal story. All right. So this is more like we saw Avraham succeed. He succeeded, right? He did Hashem's will, and it was a success, right? Now this is a story of failure, right? A story of failure, but you can still learn. Oftentimes we learn from failure, right? We might have even possibly learned more from failure than from our successes. So anyways, hopefully you can learn from other people's failure and not your own. So anyway, in this story, we were coming back into Judaism. We were learning more about Judaism. I don't even think we were. I don't even think we were keeping the mitzvot. I mean, doing the holidays. We were just learning. We were just barely learning. But my son is coming along. My wife is pregnant with Avichail, with my firstborn, and my brother called me. Maybe a month before he was born, or not too pretty close to when he was about to be born. And he said to me, called me on the phone. He said, when you gotta have to get him circumcised on the 8th day. On the 8th day. And I'm like, okay, John, his name is John. Right, the 8th day, I got it. And I was just learning. I was just, okay. I know I wanted to get him circumcised, but I didn't know that all the details of it, right? At that time. It's like, okay, the 8th day, John. And I heard him clearly, and I knew what he said. And then when my son came around and he was born, and we were at the hospital, and you see this beautiful baby, and you're all emotional. And then the doctor comes in and says to us, we're doing circumcisions today. You want to get your son circumcised? We just do a batch of them at the same time. That's kind of what they said. And we were like, I was just like, well, I know I want to get him circumcised. So yeah, sure. So I ignored what my brother said. And I, said, yeah, get him circumcised with the rest of the babies, And so then what happened was like a punishment, a trial, but a punishment, because there was an issue when he got circumcised. He didn't stop bleeding. He had a blood clotting issue, and so it kept bleeding, and so they took our son away from us. They put him in the ICU, the baby ICU, and we could like just look at him. I think my wife could hold him for a little while at a time, but like we had to keep coming back to the hospital for the next few days. It was hard. It was like we didn't get to bring our baby home, right after he was born. And it was a beautiful thing that we had a new baby, but it was overshadowed by guilt, by me not following the commandment, and just fear that he would be okay and all these things, right? And so there's a lot of issues because of that. So it was a hard lesson that I learned, right? And it wasn't only this act that I did, or was not only affecting me, but affected like my whole family, right? Affected my son, affected my wife, anyone around, right? It pretty much affected a lot of people. And it's because I didn't follow the mitzvot correctly, right? And so, then I was like, at that point in time, I didn't know any other reasons other than you should follow the mitzvot. There's no, sometimes we look for other reasons, like, oh, we follow the mitzvot because of this, or we follow the mitzvot because of this. But at that point, it was just like, I should have just followed the mitzvot, just the way it is laid out in front of me. Nothing, not trying to figure out any other reason, right? And so, the lesson we can learn from this is when Hashem gives us a mitzvot, such as especially ones that we are not, there's no real special reason, or even if there's no reason for it, we should still do it, right? Oftentimes people talk about dietary laws, like there's real no reasons. Of course, in science we could find some reasons and stuff, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if there's extra reasons. It's reason enough that Hashem told us to do it, right? The Shabbat, these mitzvot that are between us and Hashem, we just do them even if we have no reason. And the ones between our fellow men, we do them. We should do them even if there's no reason. But oftentimes it's the reason is obvious. The things that we don't do to our fellow man, stealing and murder, and these things are obviously negative impact. They have negative impacts. We could just see the reasons. We don't even have to dig in or anything. But in any case, when Hashem gives us a mitzvot, we should do it. And the 8th day is not the 8th day because of medical science, even though it has, science has brought up reasons, because on that 8th day, your blood clots better after 8 days, especially actually. It clots the most, I think, on that 8th day. But even if you don't have that reason, it doesn't matter. You should still do it on the 8th day. Yes, it should have been enough for me. So we live in this hard world, and oftentimes they ask, does it really matter? Does it really matter if you eat such and such? Does it really matter if you keep the Shabbat? Does it really matter? This and that. And those are usually the things that they dig at you at, and you have to say, yes, it really matters, because this is what God has said to us to do. And if we don't do it, we, in a sense, get cursed. But if we do it, we get blessed. But not just us. Those around us get cursed, or those around us get blessed. So it spreads beyond ourselves, especially as a people, as a whole group. It multiplies even more so. But even in one individual, as myself, it affected not just me but my family. So this is real. This stuff happens. This is why we need to keep the mitzvot as Hashem has commanded us to do. And the question is, does it really matter if we modify the mitzvot to fit our convenience or comfort? And yes, Avraham Avinu would say, yes, it matters. You need to do it the way Hashem has told you to do it. The Ramban teaches us that our potential, even our good intentions have to become actual through our obedience to Hashem. And I learned that obedience, it could protect us and those around us or it could curse us and those around us, So vice versa. I've learned this lesson, right? So when we go, think there. I guess the challenge for you is this week is think about where your emunah, you have faith in something. Think about maybe a mitzvah or something that you may have trouble with, or maybe you're not like thinking about it more seriously enough, or just maybe there's something you could do a little bit more. Think about that, or maybe just in your mind, you have faith that, oh yeah, such and such. If I give to Hashem, it's good. But then you maybe only give a little bit, not giving. Or maybe if I'm going to save for the holidays, I'm going to start saving for holidays. It's a good intention, but you actually only save a few dollars, and you're not saving enough as you said you were going to do. Whatever it is, just do it. Start doing it. This is the time. The idea to act, to do some action, like our father Avraham, because we are Benei Avraham, right? We are ones who act like Avraham. So that is my challenge to you, and my prayer for you. Let us be obedient, like Avraham, and may we also, Ekev Asher Shamanu Bekolah. May we listen. May we be blessed because we have listened to Hashem's voice. So Shabbat Shalom.
I have a translation for that. 1 second.
Maybe we could have someone online